AI in early economics.
Then strategic leadership.
Psychology also.
Psychology.
Psychology. Psychology of nuances of psychology. Okay. And what else? Anything?
That's all.
That's it. And what was covered in this morning session?
Strategic leadership.
And all of you are from Delhi schools?
No, from
No.
across the country.
Across. So, when I was asked to come here, bachpan, so it reminded me of my bachpan. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to come to a platform where you are discussing about the children and their bachpan, so that they develop as good leaders. And the topic was given education and employability. It was employment, but I think it's more appropriate was employability. So, given that we have 1 hour, so let me first put it back to you. Do you have any questions for me? Because I come from a university. My job has been for last 10 years in setting up a university. I'm the founding vice chancellor of this university. Now this university is set up in Melbourne. We are having more than 2,000 students in the campus. Not only the university, we also have a school, which is the first of its kind school in India, which is vocational education integrated school. It's called Skill Innovator Foundation School by SVSU. So we have a school integrated university in Palwal. So do you have any questions in mind for me before I start talking? Yes.
As you are a vice chancellor of Skill University,
Oh, actually,
and we offer different skill subjects at school level. Do you give any preference to those students who have taken skill subjects in their curriculum or vocational subjects in while schooling? Is there any specific criteria for those also? Some seats are reserved because unless there is some specific provision for them, students are not ready to go for the skill subjects. Please.
so your question is students who have already gone through some kind of vocational education in their schooling, do we give them preference? Okay. The answer is yes. See, in India, earlier we didn't have a very structured framework of vocational education. It's only in the last couple of years we have got National Skill Qualification Framework. And under the National Skill Qualification Framework, we have the erstwhile level 1 to level 10, where level 1 corresponded to class 9 level qualification programs. Now that new model, the National Skill Qualification Framework, is now changed from level 1 to 10 to level 1 to level 8. So they have compressed certain levels. But still, the level 1 corresponds to your class 9. So in class 9, there are various sectors, like sector skill councils, National Skill Development Corporation, NCE, the National Council for Vocational Education and Training. Now, these organizations have taken mandate to develop qualifications at different levels. Say, for example, if level 1 corresponds to class 9 today, so they would, from different sectors, say pharmaceutical sector, health sector, agriculture sector, IT sector, automobile sector, manufacturing sector. So different sectors. There are more than 38 sectors that India has identified. So in all these sectors, they will identify certain job roles. For example, in a manufacturing sector, there is a job role for an entry-level worker. Or that job role of a worker is on a machine, so we call it machinist. So there would be a job role pertaining to machinists, which may be at level 1 or level 2, because in industry they normally take a 9th pass or 10th pass at the machinist job role. So what has happened that in all these sectors they have, with the help of industry, identified job roles where 9th pass, 10th pass, 11th pass, 12th pass students can enter unskilled, and then they can skill them up, and then they can do their livelihoods in the industry. So what's happening now? The skill ecosystem of NSDC, NCGT, they are developing qualifications. So even if you are a class 9, you can have a qualification of a machinist, you can have a qualification of a welder, you can have a qualification of a CNC operator. You can learn that along with your class 9th or class 10th or class 11th, and when you exit and you don't want to pursue higher education, you can exit from a school or from a higher secondary school and can go for that job role for which your vocational education has been provided to you. So this is a new thing that has happened. So students who have a prior qualification certification in any of the job roles will get an advantage when they apply for higher education. Because in higher education, there are programs like Bachelor of Vocation. Now, in Bachelor of Vocation, if there is a corresponding qualification, for example, if there is a Bachelor of Vocation in automobile or a Bachelor of Vocation in mechanical. So, if some student at class 9, 10th, 11th, 12th has got himself or herself certified in some specific qualification, that qualification credits can be exempted or he or she will get a priority preference while seeking admission in the bachelor degree programs, undergraduate. Did I answer your question? Yes. Any other question you have before I start? I haven't get started.
So another very basic question that I have is that you talk about students who are ninth pass being welder or machinists. Is there something for the urban students as well whose parental paying capacity is higher?
So, how many of you have seen the CBSE's vocational skill program list on the CBSE board? So your question can get answered. You will see there is not only welding. You will see the emerging technology courses like artificial intelligence, IoT, multi-skill. So welding or CNC I use as an example because they're very easy to relate. But in my school, we have got AI as a core vocational program at class 9. So you can now today they have got some 18 to 20 courses listed on the CBSE portal, but the times are changing. We are working on developing new programs. For example, now the Chat GPT has come in, and we are looking at how we can create a prompter's job role for Chat GPT students. Now, though there's an age restriction, still there's an age restriction in some places, but we are trying to see if after class 10th we can offer a prompter's role. You know the prompter role in ChatGPT? So, maybe in IoT, you can have a IoT operator role who can understand the Internet of Things or blockchain. So blockchain also requires some basic skills someone can easily grasp them right from class 11, 12 onwards. Because they require some basic skills and the students can learn until they want to develop expertise in blockchain. Cloud. Now cloud architects today, the foundational courses are offered to class 11 and class 12 students. Data analytics. Now, data analytics doesn't require you to be a graduate. In class 10 onwards, you can start helping students becoming data analysts. Now, if you train students on the basic versions of Excel and help them to understand the various tools and various options that are given in the Excel, they can be further taken and they can become data analysts by learning some new programs. The students at class 11th and 12th are today learning C++. So there are various programs that are today available, on the AI, on the CSE portal. But you as an institution can also work on developing certain add-ons to the students if you don't have a specific skill school, but you want to add skill courses in your program. That's all a choice that you have. Yes. Anyone else?
At a time, sir, only one that vocational courses we can start in our school.
So, as far as the formal process is concerned, please get in. we had to work very hard with CBSE because we wanted to run exclusive skill school. But finally, what we got an approval from CBSE was today, like you have some 5 subjects in CBSE. You have English, Math, Science, Mathematics, Social Studies, and then language. So we also have a skill school, but now the combination is 2 mandatory skill subjects, and then choice between math and science, and then 2 language programs. So it's a very different kind of a blend. In my school, a student has a choice to go with a conventional or choose any of the 2 skill subjects. So in my school, 100% students have 2 skill subjects, mandatory. And then they have an option to choose between math and science, but there are 100% students who have chosen both. So they have an additional subject now.
What are they?
Sorry?
What are those subjects?
Math and science?
No, no.
Additional
Government
subjects.
vocational.
And, these are the vocational subjects. So
Okay.
vocational subjects we have got 18. So out of 18, we run all 18. So when a student comes for an admission to my school, so they have a choice out of 18. Like today, if any student joins a normal CBSE school, they have no choice. Or do you give any choice?
No, we
You
don't
don't
have.
give any choice. In our school, we give them a choice. So out of 18, they can choose any 2.
And how you are able to manage the financial resource?
That's what we have done. It's all we run a self-financed, self-funded school. So I don't get funding from the government for most of the because my school doesn't have right now sanctioned posts. So I don't know how many of you are from the government school.
No.
So you can't understand the pain we go through in the government. But we are trying to run the school on a self-finance based model. So we are charging a little higher fee. But in the rural belt, the amount of money we pay to teachers is not very exorbitant. So we pay around 30 to 35,000 as per the government rates, and then 40 to 45,000 as for the PGT teachers. But for the skilled teachers, we are using the university's capacity because I have got in university large number of skill instructors for different programs. So we also use them in the school and give them some load of classes. So this is how we are managing it internally. But when we offer these skill courses to children, it's not that every child can take any course. So they have to go through a profiling test in which we do a mapping between the skill and the proficiency of the child. So if the child's proficiency is matching, then we have the merit. Because in my school in Palwal, we have got 15 students applying for 1 seat. So that's the challenge we face. So at the end, we have to have a merit, and sometimes students don't get the choice of their course in our schools, so then they will have to rely on the second preference and third preference. That's what happened. But what is resulting out of it is that students have become so hands-on today. If you go to my school in the Palwal, you will be surprised to find the children coming from very humble background, rural background, can talk to you in a language which you won't even see in a high-rise public school. So, and that's only because they get exposure to that vocational side of education. So I think that's making them more employable because even if they want to exit, they definitely will have some sort of skills which they can actually leverage either for self or for a job. Yes. Anything else?
So I need to ask about placements from your university.
So that's a very good question. Yeah, that's a good question. So if you go and look at our website, please take some time, www.svsu.ac.in. We are 100% work integrated institution. So none of the programs that we run in our university is run in an academic model. So every program that we have has an industry partner. So that mandates every student to work in the industry. So our credit ratio is 60-40. So a student, for example, an undergraduate student, has to earn 100% credits, say 100 credits. The 60 credits will come from work. 40 credits will come from classroom and labs and workshops. So what happens is that when we design a program, we design a program for a specific job role of the industry. Now, for example, there's an undergraduate program. So in undergraduate program, there are 3 years. Suppose we are developing the undergraduate program in mechanical manufacturing. So the first year and the second year would be mapped to a specific job role. For example, we work with Hero, a Maruti. So they have certain job roles in the industry. So they and university works on if a student completes first year after 12, which job role we must integrate in first year, and if the student wants to exit, where will he work in the industry? The second year is a little bit higher job role, and if a student moves to second year and completes second year and exits, so again the job role is defined that if the student exits, this is the job role where the student can work. And the third year is the final year undergraduate program. So if the student completes his undergraduate program, which job role industry can offer him? Normally in their recruitment guidelines, they have already specified. So what happens? The job roles that we have integrated in the program, for every job role, 60% of the time, the student will be spending every year in the industry like an apprentice, like an intern. So those areas have been earmarked, and students every semester will exit and go to the industry. Then they will come back next year, complete another 6 months, and then go back to the industry. So this way, they spend 60% of time in industry. By the time they complete their undergraduate program, they are completely industry ready. So they become the first choice for the industry to be hired. So that's how we impact the employability. And today, my placements are 82% in the campus. So you can go and see our website. Yes. Anything else? No questions? So, if there's no questions, so let me start my story. So I'll start talking about education. So how many of you are familiar with what is the contribution of India's GDP to the global GDP today? The world GDP and what is contribution of India to world GDP? What percentage?
Is it 30?
Oh,
I wish it was 30.
1-2%.
Let a dream come true.
6%.
Oh, 1-2%, sir.
6%.
Yeah, you're closer. You're
5%,
closer.
I think.
No. We are around 6 to 7% of the total global GDP, India's contribution. But you are not wrong. We have 30% of global GDP. India had 30% of world GDP. You are right, and you are also right. You know how? How many of you have read Angus Madison, the famous British economic historian, and his beautiful book, The Contours of World Economy? If you have not read, please read it. Angus Madison, in his research, did the research for the global economies. He tried to study countries. He tried to find out how countries and their economies behave for first century AD until 17th, 18th century. And surprisingly, he found that India's GDP was 30% of the world GDP in first century AD, and it continued until 17th, 18th, 16th, 17th, 18th century, like that. Unfortunately, the colonials came in and they destroyed, and it's beautifully written. If someone of you have read the book, The Beautiful Tree by Mr. Dhampal, you must read that. Every teacher must read that book. There's a beautiful book, well-researched book, which Mahatma Gandhi actually inspired Dhampal to write that, and he published that book after 20 years of research. But what was happening in India? And by the way, there is another organization called Srini Kalyana Rama Institution that has done phenomenal research, and they claim that India's GDP was more than 30%, it was 50% before first century AD, because they claim India was a better. And from Haifa to Israel, there was a trade route for which India was very famous. And but what was happening in India that made India to be on the top of the world, be such a great contributor, and that's why sometimes India was called so make it India. So this word hasn't suddenly come up from nowhere. There is a historical background about this word. But what was happening in India? So if you see India's educational system was far superior than what we see today in terms of in the context of that those times. And if you look at the educational institutions of that time, like Nalanda, Takshila, Sompura, Udantapuri, Vadavi, Sharda, Shala, Kerala, one after another, great universities of that time. And these great universities had great scholars studying in these institutions. Not only Indian scholars, there were a large number of scholars coming from far countries of the world. Because when they came to know about the Indian education system, and those days they had no helicopters, no aeroplanes, they had to come from the difficult terrains. And there are many writers who write like Hyun Fahian, Xinjiang, they write that how difficult it was for them to reach India, and then how much astonishment they had when they saw the kind of education and academic modeling that was happening in India. And one of the important things that has always excited me how we used to the small basic examples. For example, if we have to educate our children, what is the fundamental thing that our education system was actually focusing on first? Values, ethics, integrity. And examples be all across, because it was the fundamental belief if you don't make a good human being first, you can't become a good professional later. And how many of you play snake and ladder at home? Your children play? क्या बोलते हैं इसको? सांप सीढ़ी. Which country brought this सांप सीढ़ी? India? It's a test for teachers. And also get a job. Which country brought?
China.
China. Okay. Ah, yeah, right, India. But you know what this game was called? What was this game called? It was called Moksha Padam. How many of you are from South? How can you forget this?
Yes.
You know why it was called Moksha Padam? Eh? ठीक है. Heaven. चलिए moksha is not heaven. Moksha is ultimately becoming liberated. Not completely. Means the final wisdom. Yeah, so why was it called Moksha Padam? Reaching to that level. So where was this game called Moksha Padam? Out of which struggle? Snake and ladder. Why snake and ladder? What was so unique about snake and ladder?
That you go up and people pull you down, you go up, people pull you down, you struggle, there will be obstacles in life, you should not give up, keep on going.
Very right. Yes, आप कुछ कह रहे? I saw you raising hand.
To go through the struggles of life and achieve the final top, not till
So
the goal
where
is reached.
a snake bite happens, there is a vice. And where you get a ladder, there's virtue. यानी अच्छाई जहाँ साफ काटता है, बुराई जहाँ साफ काटता है, और अच्छाई जहाँ सीढ़ी। और ओरिजिनल जो गेम थी उसमें सीढ़ियां बड़ी कम थी, लेस ladders, because in life you have lesser opportunities, more
difficulties, trouble.
so in those hurdles you have to find a ladder. That was the ultimate message to this game. But what children learned through this game was they will learn what is right and what is wrong at that tender age. And then their mental development was also handled. You know how? Another game. Which game? Mental development का game कौन सा?
Chess.
What was it called? शतरंज तो रशिया वाले खेलते हैं। Chaucer. Shatranj was also an Indian game. It was called Chaturanga. It was also called Ashtapada. Four people used to play this. The purpose of this game was to enhance the mental abilities, thinking abilities, cognitive abilities. This is just an example. The focus of Indian education was to develop integrity first, and then develop skills, and then get into the profession of your own choice. So that's why it's very important for us to understand how the Western model of education is also good. But what is the focus of Western? Their primary focus is when this is my personal assessment. Their focus is on creating comforts at the outer level. आपको एसी की गाड़ियां देंगे, बिल्डिंग्स देंगे, कार देंगे, सब कुछ देंगे. Well, the education is focused on developing innovations which will create comforts in our life. But at the cost of creating inner discomforts. You see, no one is happy today inside. Everyone shows we are really happy because we have so many things. But inside, but Indian education, your traditional education or the ancient education things, first focus was to create internal comforts first. Understand that calmness, understand that reality, understand who you are, understand your connection with the nature, understand why nature is important, you are not important. If nature survives, only then you can survive. We had a term in India, I don't know how many of you have heard, we call it voluntary poverty. Voluntary poverty. Poverty तो शब्द सबको पता है, but voluntary poverty एक शब्द होता था. उसका मतलब था I will have only that much I need. So there's no need to hold. But what has happened with time? Things have switched over to this side because we have after the external comforts and holding has become. So anyway, that's the point is, if we are not able to create a human being who's very good, who's nice, who understands who has an empathy, who understands nature, who understands the preservation of relationships, who understands the preservation of the environment, the nature, only that person tomorrow when he or she will go out for inventions, innovations, he will or she will always keep in mind the impact of her or his work on society, impact of his or her work on nature. But what's happening? Today we are not bothered about the nature, we are not bothered about the society, and we are bothered about profits. So that's why the difference has come. I remember हम लोग छोटे थे, in our, I belong to Kashmir. So हमारे यहाँ बहुत springs हैं. And Kashmir is full of springs. Every spring, हमारे घर के बाहर भी springs थे. हर 50 मीटर पे आपको spring मिलेगा. But every spring would have some kind of छोटा सा एक वो मूर्ति लगा दिया, उसको फूल लगा दिए, and we had to be very careful. अगर पानी निकालना है तो we have to take our shoes out and then go and fetch the water out of the spring. हमें आज समझ में आता ऐसा करते क्यों थे? पेड़ के नीचे बैठ के और धागा वागा लगा के उसको पूजा करते थे. तो हमें समझ में नहीं आती space. But today I realize ancestors insisted on this because it was one of the ways of protecting them. If springs were protected, our health was protected. If trees were protected, our health was protected. If rivers are protected, our health is protected. If flora fauna is protected, our health is protected. We are protected. We are because they are. वो जो इंटरकनेक्टेडनेस थी ना वो हमारी एजुकेशन हमको सिखा रही थी. There is an interconnectedness between you and everything around. That somewhere has actually missed. And at that time, the moment our children are born today, we start thinking of how to take him or her to the IIT or IIMs or make him a doctor or make him this and that. And eventually, by the time he becomes a doctor, he forgets who he was. आप देखिए 90%, 80%, 70% डेटा कहता है बच्चे तो आज फुल हो गए और पेरेंट्स ओल्ड एज होम में नहीं है वो इसलिए नहीं है क्योंकि बच्चों को लगता है कि सोशल स्टिग्मा तो दे इंश्योर कि वो घर पे ही रहे हम पैसे वैसे भेजते रहे जाके पेरेंट्स से पूछिए तो हाल क्या है रीजन क्या है बिकॉज वो जो बेसिक एथिक्स और इंटीग्रिटी वो जो वैल्यू सिस्टम था वो कहीं ना कहीं पे हम लोग मिस कर गए हमें आज बाहर से तो हम बता देते हैं माय सन इज वर्किंग फॉर गूगल इन न्यूयॉर्क और शाम को जब घर पहुंचता है ना पेरेंट उसे न्यूयॉर्क कुछ याद नहीं रहता उसे आंसू निकल रहे होते हैं कि यार मेरा बच्चा मेरे साथ बहुत पेरेंट्स के साथ होता है एंड इट्स ऑल बिकॉज कहीं पे जो संस्कार हैं कहीं पे जो वैल्यूज हैं एजुकेशन के वो हम इनकलकेट करना भूल गए हम लोग दौड़ में चले गए और एजुकेशन को बस एम्प्लॉयमेंट और कितना पैसा कमा पाएगा उसके साथ जोड़ दिया लेकिन कितने रिश्ते कमा पाएगा इससे हमें शिक्षा तो जो the point I wanted to draw back is that India's original education system was also high on employment. अब आप कहेंगे कैसे आप देखिए दुनिया की जो प्रोग्रेस है वो उसकी इनोवेशंस और इन्वेंशन से मिली है I was in Australia some years back when I was in IBM. So I saw a pratima of Rishi in one of the colleges. When I went near to it, I was surprised to see it was written Sushruta, father of surgery. And then I started reading about it and I was surprised. Maharishi Sushruta was thousands of years back, he had given us the Sushruta Samhita, which is the doctrine of Shailya surgery and plastic surgery as well as the cataract operations. Thousands of years back. You have Charak Samhita that has, or any other Ayurveda, if you look at the kind of granthas we have in Ayurveda, detailed research that we have done in that field. आप measurement करते हैं, weights and measures, scale system, it all is done from this tradition. If you go and look at the construction of bridges, canals, South India to बड़ा पड़ा है, the kind of construction, the kind of temples that we have constructed, single stone में से, single rock में से बड़े-बड़े temples create किए हुए, so that talks about our architecture, our design, the way we used to be skilled in those areas. So you go to any field. I was just reading a couple of days back. How many of you have seen a movie called Interstellar? Christopher Nolan. Have you seen that? Christopher Nolan. So now this movie is very interesting and everyone likes it. Why? Because this movie talks about a person of this generation wanting to save his planet, and he is pushed into another universe, right? And he is pushed into another universe through a wormhole. You see, wormhole. So if you haven't understood wormhole, so it is like we see this entire universe on a space-time model, and if we have to move from one place to another place, there's a space and there's time taking to reach that one place to another place. So इस मूवी में they have actually defeated the concept of space and time, and they have talked about the concept of wormholes. And the wormhole is अगर ये दो ends हैं तो दोनों को fold किया so space and time is completely disappearing. Now people have loved it. They got it, yes, because the universe is like this. There are wormholes in the space. Now, if most of you, अगर आपने हमारे पुराणों में कहानी पढ़ी होगी, there is a story of Raja Kapudani and Revati, his daughter, thousands of years back. Imagine for a second, interstellar comes today, the theory of universe and multiverse comes today, but the story of Kapudani and Revati is thousands of years back, where Raja Kapudani is worried कि मुझे अपनी बेटी की शादी करनी है, और there are so many young ones who he is very confused कि किससे शादी करूँ इसकी, and he decides to go to Brahmalok. So he goes to Brahmalok as per the Puranic story. So he goes to Brahmalok. In Brahmalok, he has to wait for 2-3 days because Brahmaji is somewhere busy. So in 3 days' time, Brahmaji comes back and meets him. So he welcomes Raja Kapudani and asks him, "What brings you here?" So Raja Kapudani says that, I have my daughter and I want to marry her, and these are the names I want you to tell me, guide me. Who is the right Vara for her? So Brahmaji laughs at him. Why are you laughing? He said, "See, for last 3 days, 3 yugas have gone away. And jinka naam tum bata rahe ho, they are no more. Even your kingdom is no more." So this time dilation, the concept of time dilation has been determined in India thousands of years back, but we ignored them as stories. ये तो myth है, तो mythological stories है, but today the mythological stories are coming in the form of quantum mechanics and quantum physics. The consciousness that we have been talking about thousands of years back, the ultimate consciousness, Maha, Maheshwara, Shiva, we may be giving it different names, Purusha and Prakriti. Today's quantum mechanics is now actually trying to talk about it. So, somewhere we have got a little disconnect with our tradition. Now, let me ask you a question. So, when we talk about education and employability, what is that is preventing us from really making our children employable? What is that? What is the current? अब मैं value से हट के बात कर रहा हूँ. Let's come to the modern time. What is the demand of today's time from a child? What is the current expectation of contemporary time from a child who's coming out of a school? What does it want? A child to do, or child's competency, child's skill. What the heck? But what is it expecting? एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी के क्या ऐसे डायमेंशन हैं, क्या ऐसे ट्रेड्स हैं जो आज एक चाइल्ड को डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करने पड़ेंगे, which earlier we were not focusing on.
Soft skills, digital literacy.
Soft skills, digital literacy, overall means holistic development. Okay. So what is changing today? Education has to address the need. That's why we are educating them. What is the need and what kind of need is emerging? आज से 10 साल, 20 साल, 25 साल, 30 साल पहले की नीड में और आज की नीड में डिफरेंस क्या है?
Technological advancement.
So what kind of technological advancement? Technology तब भी थी, उस टाइम की टेक्नोलॉजी आज भी है, डिफरेंस क्या है? The shelf life of knowledge and skill is changing very fast. Means during my time, whatever we learned, the shelf life of that knowledge was pretty good. 20 साल, 25 साल, 30 साल तब तक कोई नई इन्वेंशन आएगी, तब तक कोई नया चीज आएगा. लेकिन आज प्रॉब्लम क्या हो रही है? The shelf life is reducing day by day. Now this is one important challenge. What else? What is changing? तब में और अब में क्या? One is shelf life is changing for knowledge and skill. What else? Speed at which it is changing.
Earning,
And
बच्चे बहुत
looking for
advanced
earning,
technology.
you keep.
much better earning people are looking for. Students are looking for.
No, what is changing? Change क्या हो रहा है बाहर की दुनिया में? पहले आपको इंफॉर्मेशन पता लगते लगते महीनों लगते हैं.
Technology. Access.
The access to the knowledge,
Communication.
Faster.
it has become a commodity. Those days, it was a privilege to go to a library. It was a privilege to have a session with a teacher. Teacher आएगा, पढ़ाएगा, कुछ बताएगा. It's not a privilege today. It's the knowledge you are sharing in the classroom is a commodity because he or she is getting that knowledge in his or her mobile. And now, thank you to ChatGPT. So, this is also changing. What else is changing? Those days we had clarity कि साहब ये 10 जॉब्स हैं. बेटा इंजीनियर बन जा, बेटा डॉक्टर बन जा. Now इंजीनियर बनेगा, किसका इंजीनियर? इंजीनियरिंग में भी माइक्रो इंजीनियरिंग निकल के आई है. Now mechanical engineering has lost its charm. Computer engineering has lost its charm. Electrical engineering has lost its charm. Now the emerging thing is all these engineering are combining together. For example, mechatronics. You have components of mechanical, electrical, electronics, computer, and then people do engineering and then they do a job somewhere in BPO. And then they do a job somewhere in Ernst & Young or Deloitte. They don't do the hardcore jobs for engineering. ये भी चेंज हो रहा है. और इन सब में सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज क्या चेंज हो रही है? That people who join, irrespective of where and what company they join, what job they join, the ability to think and take decisions in complex work environments. Complex work environments. So, ability to have solve problems in a complex work environment. Complex problem solving. Now, complex problem solving is a very different nuance. Problem solving and complex problem solving. Critical thinking. Thinking and critical thinking is different. Creative thinking. Now, as a teacher, I'm just asking, how are you curating complex problem solving in school? You are teaching, this is syllabus, you are teaching, that's it. But in your teaching methods, please tell me in this room, any teacher, any example that you are using to help children to learn complex problem solving, which will help him or her as the child grows and moves into the world of work. Can you share? I'm hopeful I'll get answer from everyone. Any one of you is doing something are you all teachers? Any one of you is doing something in your subject, syllabus, class that will help students to learn these skills? Okay. How will a child learn? What is complex problem solving? अच्छा हम कहते हैं बड़ी complex problem. What will constitute a complex problem? मैं आपको scientific तरीके से बताऊंगा जो मुझे समझ में आता है.
Something which has to be broken down
into,
simpler pieces.
right,
Yeah, multiple things.
right, right. कोई एग्जाम्पल दीजिए
So maybe
ये कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम नहीं, कोई कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम की एग्जाम्पल दीजिए, कोई एक एग्जाम्पल दीजिए किसी भी फील्ड की कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व. Student,
As a submission of the assignment, simultaneously he has to participate in some competition also where he needs to present himself and simultaneously other things are also going on. He needs to manage the work in between. He needs to understand how to perform everywhere simultaneously.
okay, so multiple things happening at the same time is one of the examples of complex problems. Okay, can someone come a little bit closer?
So maybe when you teach a chapter, you give them, you read the chapter again and you present it in a form of a comic strip or a graphic organizer. So I'm giving a complex problem to them and they have to solve it.
Okay, very nice. Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead, please. Remember, if you cannot detect a complex problem, how can you create an environment of learning in the class for a student to learn, handle, solving a complex problem? How is it possible? So, as a teacher, you will have to find out. ये जैसे आपने example. Anyone give example? In my class, I can give this scenario that will inculcate these abilities or these skills. A student will tread on the side. Yes, sir.
I have given a robotic challenge to the students. Normally हम problem देखते हैं मेरी गाड़ी साफ नहीं है, मुझे चाहिए कि मेरी गाड़ी साफ नहीं है. So a small device which can rotate all around the car and to clean the car in a very normal way. How the water can be saved. So I have given this challenge recently. Another thing I have given जैसे inverters is very common. But rural areas में इन्वर्टर नहीं होते हैं या लाइट ही नहीं होती तो इन्वर्टर चार्ज कैसे होगा, या वेरी बेसिक थिंग. सो जस्ट अ स्मॉल डिवाइस कि आप फैन पे ही लगा दो, लाइट नहीं होगी चलेगा, कैंडल दे देगी लेकिन हवा चाहिए.
बिल्कुल ठीक.
So
बिल्कुल ठीक है जवाब. देखिए आप जो भी पढ़ाते हो, whatever you teach, in the space of your subject or in the space of two subjects or three subjects, you will find scope of many problems. For example, हमारा देश तो full of problems है. आप किसी भी फील्ड में हाथ डालो वहाँ प्रॉब्लम है. So you can list many problems, and those problems you can actually introduce certain complexities. When we design certain situations, with certain complex problem है, but उसमें complexities के layers add करने हैं as a teacher. Because I know कि ये problems को students को समझना है. And when I add those layers and I ask students, okay, guys, go and do this. So students will have now stretch their thinking. Now I'm not saying what you should do. You are better, learned to do that. But if you don't do this, if you simply go inside the class with a chalk and talk model, you are actually solving the 21st century problem with a 20th century solution. This is not going to work. It may give you satisfaction, आपने 8 घंटे का काम कर लिया, but it's not going to give satisfaction to the purpose for which this shit change has happened. You know, many schools में क्या होता है? I don't know how many of you have seen. Yes.
Could you just elaborate what you just said with an example? Because we are in the class, give us the problem, and put all those layers of complexities.
So let me give it this way. Let me use a psychometric model. You know, our brain is comprising of left brain and right brain. Now, what is this left brain and right brain? Sorry, anyone?
Creative and logical.
So the left brain is more about the administrative, mathematical, quantitative. It's more about organized brain, and the right brain is more about intuitive brain. और इसको फर्दर क्लासिफाई किया गया है अपर राइट एंड लोअर राइट, upper left and lower left, which means the brain has certain functions to perform. Every child, when he or she is born with a brain, and brain gets certain inputs based on which certain quadrants of the brain develop and preferences develop in that side. For example, if someone's brain is developed in the field of being technical, being mathematical, being quantitative, being numeric, or someone's brain is developing in being organized, structured, safekeeping. Someone's brain is developed for being empathetic, being relationship oriented, or someone's brain is developed for being ideative, being intuitive. So these are four quadrants of brain development. Now, what is the purpose of education? The purpose of education is to help develop a whole brain thinking. Now, how will you develop a whole brain thinking? When you look at a problem, suppose you have a problem which you want to develop as a project for students. Now, in that problem, are you putting enough challenges from the point of view of upper left quadrant, which is talking about data, analysis, mathematics, quantitative information? Are you putting enough challenges for the student where student has to structure something, organize something, where student has to test before putting something into order? Are you putting enough where student has to think, ideate, cross the boundaries and think differently? And are you putting enough opportunities in your project assignment where you are putting working in a team, connecting with others, having a mutual consensus on decision making? You see, when you are designing a project or a problem for a student to handle a complex problem, you are developing certain elements of complexity from people, from facts, feelings, forms, and future. You are putting all these aspects, but that requires a teacher to himself or herself be aware of. So, if you look at all holistic way of thinking, you may be able to develop certain small assignments for students. It can be doing a research on why people are using too much of ACs in the houses. Can the consumption of ACs can be reduced in the houses? Can students look at how much of waste is generated in their society? Can they check what are the different aspects of waste generation and waste management in the society? It's up to you which problems you want to pick up. That will give students an idea to explore through the various thinking prisms. So, if all those opportunities are created, but for that, it requires a teacher to herself, himself, be conversant about identifying problems and designing those problems in such a way that the students have the opportunity to explore. देखो होता क्या है कि स्कूल से प्रोजेक्ट तो मिल जाता है, लेकिन वो प्रोजेक्ट करता कौन है? घर में कोई स्पाउस या कोई सिबलिंग या कोई बड़ा होता है, वो कर देता है, वो भी नहीं है. There is a big mafia going around the schools and societies. That is your stationery shops. So stationery shops have ready-made projects. उनका स्कूल के साथ ये होता है कि सर मेरे ये 50 प्रोजेक्ट इस साल के हैं, वो सारे प्रोजेक्ट बना देते हैं और बना के क्या करते हैं, उसमें A grade, B grade, C grade होता है. If my financial capacity is to pay more, I will buy a A grade project. My son should get more class at school. And what happens? I will buy that. I will bring that to home. And then what I will do, I will put the label of my child, my son, and my son happily goes and takes it to the school. You see this entire cycle, how you have short-circuited complex problem skill management or creativity or innovation. Not only has this been short-circuited, even the ethics and integrity has been short-circuited. We have inculcated a lesson in the child, beta, लाइफ में सब कुछ पॉसिबल है दिस वे और दैट वे there is no need to put too much of stress. You can cut, copy, and paste, and that is the reason why India's innovation index is not so great. We are at 48th level of innovation index because 1200 यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं, 50,000 कॉलेज इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, 10,000 स्टैंड अलोन इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं। उसके बाद भी हमारे यहाँ PhDs जो करते हैं, उनकी जो PhD के रिसर्च आउटपुट होता है, वो भारत के इनोवेशन इंडेक्स को बढ़ा नहीं पाता, क्योंकि ओरिजिनलिटी जो है, जो थिंकिंग ओरिजिनलिटी है, वो कहीं ना कहीं
यूनिवर्सिटीज के सिलेबस रिवाइज नहीं होता सर।
देखिए, that's what I'm saying. मैं तो स्कूल की बात करूंगा आज यहाँ पे, आपके ऊपर बहुत बड़ी जिम्मेदारी है। आप what you do today with the child will determine what he or she is going to do with himself or herself. Colleges तो receiving institutions हैं, higher education institutions are receiving institutions. Input of the school is the output of higher education institutions. So जो आप इनपुट स्कूल को, जो आपके यहाँ से आउटपुट निकलेगा, वो उनका इनपुट है। तो इसलिए जो आप दोगे वही प्रोसेस आगे होगा। और मैं व्यक्तिगत स्तर पर ये देख रहा हूँ, जो स्कूल से क्वालिटी बच्चों की आती है, उनमें ये बहुत बड़ी चैलेंज है। अगर कोई शार्प भी है तो कहीं ना कहीं तो कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर जाता है वैल्यूज, और अगर वैल्यूज में अच्छा है तो शायद हमने उसकी शार्पनेस को नहीं की। मैं यहाँ स्टॉप करता हूँ, 10 से 11 का ही सेशन है, so let's stop here unless you have anything.
सर आई जस्ट वांट
Yes.
कभी आपने जो बोला ना कि बच्चों की ये क्वालिटी में आपको क्या ऐसा समझ में आता है कि डिफरेंट डिफरेंट एरियाज से अलग अलग तरह के क्वालिटी के बच्चे आते हैं, या ये प्रॉब्लम हर जगह है, चाहे वो मेट्रो में हो, चाहे वो टाउन एरियाज में हो या छोटी सिटीज में?
ये प्रॉब्लम
ये जनरल प्रॉब्लम है
ये
या
जनरल प्रॉब्लम है
specified है?
उसका रीजन ये है क्योंकि जहाँ रूरल बेल्ट में बच्चे देखोगे, उनका स्कूल के अंदर का जो पैटर्न है पढ़ाने का, पेरेंटल बैकग्राउंड जो है, सोशल कनेक्ट जो है, थोड़ा डिफरेंट है। शहर में आप जाओगे तो हर घर में आपको अलग अलग मैकेनिक्स मिलेंगे। आप ट्राइबल्स में जाओगे तो आपको बहुत ही डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट। जो एक एनईपी जो है, नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, ये जो हार्मोनाइज करने की कोशिश कर रही है ना, जैसे हमारा अभी दे हैव ब्रॉट इन द एलिमेंट्री चाइल्ड केयर ईसीसी। अब ईसीसी में अभी जब तक करिकुलम नहीं बनेगा और उसमें पेरेंट्स की भागीदारी और टीचर्स की भागीदारी इमीडिएटली आफ्टर द फोर्थ ईयर ऑफ द चाइल्ड, जब तक वो नहीं बने तो तब तक वो हार्मोनाइजेशन ऑफ इनपुट एट दैट स्टेज अभी वहाँ पे चैलेंज है। बट मुझे लगता है कि अगर अगले 2-4-5 साल में वी आर एबल टू एड्रेस इट, तो दिस आल्सो विल गेट हार्मोनाइज्ड। बट बाय दैट टाइम जो भारत के फंडामेंटल वैल्यूज हैं, जो हमारे, मैंने आपको शुरू में भी कहा कि जो हमारा एथिक्स, जो इंटीग्रिटी है, अगर हम उसको पकड़ के बैठे, वो तो बेसिक, वो तो हमारे से किसी से छुपा नहीं है, वो तो बड़ा कॉमन है। उसके लिए हमें स्कूल कॉलेज नहीं चाहिए, उसके लिए पेरेंटल शिफ्ट चाहिए इन देयर एटीट्यूड एंड अप्रोच, तो वी कैन डू मच बेटर इन नेक्स्ट कपल ऑफ इयर्स। So integration नहीं आएगी, it is going to be a long drawn battle for all of us because we have become hardened fossils now after the Britishers had left us with their education.
Sir, I have one question, sir. माफ कीजिएगा अगर मेरी बात अच्छी नहीं लगी।
अरे आप
सर, यूनिवर्सिटीज क्या डिग्री बांट नहीं है? मेरे को लगता है बांटता है।
देखिए, आपको लगता है यूनिवर्सिटी डिग्री बांटती है, इसका मतलब आपके अनुभव में कहीं ना कहीं पे इस तरह की यूनिवर्सिटी आई होंगी जहाँ पे इस तरह का, और मैं आपकी बात से असहमत नहीं हूँ। हमारे देश में ये पिछले कुछ सालों में बहुत गंभीर प्रॉब्लम आई है, जिसमें आज की डेट में नॉन अटेंडिंग स्टूडेंट्स आपकी डिग्रियां नहीं मिली प्राइवेट स्कूल से, कॉलेज से, यूनिवर्सिटी से। और इसीलिए मैंने कहा कि हमारा जो ग्रोथ, डेवलपमेंट, इनोवेशन है, वो हैम्पर क्यों हो रहा है, क्योंकि जो क्वालिटी ऑफ एजुकेशन है वो कहीं ना कहीं कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो गई। और जो होती है सर।
लॉकडाउन पीरियड सर वो कॉपी घर में लेके लिख रहे थे
मैंने आपको स्कूल का एग्जाम्पल दे ही दिया कि ये ऐसा होता है, तो आप अंदाजा लगाइए हायर एजुकेशन में क्या होता होगा, गलत होता है। बट द पॉइंट इज वहां होता है, लेकिन क्या वो रीजन है, एक्सक्यूज है मेरे लिए कि मैं नहीं करूंगा? द चेंज हैज टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम मी। आई नो इट्स है, बट व्हाट कैन आई डू नॉट लेट दिस हैपन at least at my level? तो अगर यूनिट लेवल पर चेंज आना शुरू हो जाएंगे, इंडिया विल चेंज, और इंडिया नीड्स टू चेंज। It will take time. We have the capacity to shorten the time. We can move fast. We can be very aggressive. We can be very assertive. बाकी नैरेटिव्स को आप पढ़ लीजिए, हमारे यहाँ वो मेम्स आते हैं, व्हाट्सएप पे आते हैं, इंडिया तो ऐसा है वैसा है, ठीक है आएंगे, लेकिन अगर मैं असर्ट करता हूँ, मैं कमिटेड रहता हूँ इन दिस लाइफ और द नेक्स्ट लाइफ, आई विल असर्ट टू टेक दिस फॉरवर्ड, दिस एजेंडा. This is my single point agenda that I will do my work with complete ethics, honesty and integrity.